Hey guys, so this time I have another battle report for you with Warriors of the Dark Gods. It's a matchup against Empire of Sunstar. So the army list I'm playing is an army that I actually don't own myself. So we had a discussion in the WhatsApp group of Warriors of the Dark Gods in the Netherlands, and it's an army that I thought was intriguing because you have a couple of very big threats that can get to your opponent's army in turn 1 already, basically. So some other people lended me some models for this, and I'm very grateful for that. So I was planning to play it in an event actually, well, this Saturday, so last Saturday, but unfortunately that got cancelled due to the corona outbreak that has been developing the last couple of weeks. So instead I just have a battle report now. But still, it's a good way to test the army. Yeah, in terms of how this army is put together, you basically just have just big threats and then some extra stuff to back it up. So these barbarian chiefs, they are on wasteland behemoths. They have 7 wounds each with resilience 6, which is a lot. The sorcerer is on a dragon with the same resilience and 6 wounds. And then you have the Feldrog Elder also with resilience 6 and 6 wounds, I believe. And the Wasteland Behemoths, the Dragon, the Elder, they all have a 3+ armor save, so they're quite sturdy. And then to back that up, you still have 6 Feldrogs and 10 Warrior Knights with great weapons and pride. So they have a minimized discipline rule. So yeah, that was I saw that you could make this army, and then I included the barbarians just for scoring. Maybe the army gets even better if you just put in a big warrior block with a Relentless Company banner and Lust and halberds, just to put even more threat on your opponent. But this might also still be quite viable. So let's see what we are up against. We're up against Empire of Sunstal, and it's a bit of a defensive Empire of Sunstal army. So it's mostly focused around just having this block of 20 light infantry with a marksman's pennant and a cannon. So they are babysitted by a big unit of heavy infantry and some support units. And yeah, around this unit there's an artificer, a marshal, a prelate, a bafta unit, and also a wizard master on cosmology. And then away from this bulk of the army, you have the Riders, together with the Inquisitor, and the Steam Tank. I think the Steam Tank is nearly just a must pick for the Empire by now. So that's quite good. And then a cannon to just keep the big boys at bay. Yeah, so those are the lists. So we'll go to some army pictures now. So we first have the Empire of Sunstal, that you can see in these pictures, and then we go over to the Warriors of the Dark Gods. So the Warriors of the Dark Gods are mostly borrowed models, and I can't take any credit for the painting on these, but I do have to say that some of these models really look amazing. Well, most of these models just really look amazing to me. In terms of deployment, we got Dawn Assault, and the secondary objective was Spoils of War. I got to choose the table side, so my opponent got to deploy first, and he also opted to do so because he really wanted to get the first turn in, which I can really understand against the army that I am playing, because I would have liked to have the first turn for sure. So in terms of my opponent's deployment, so you have the Riders on the flanks, they can still vanguard up, you have the first turn, and this is really amazing with Riders because you are kind of guaranteed to get your first volley in at least, without any of your models dying. And then otherwise there's the Steam Tank to protect one flank of the army, the Flagellants that can back him up, and then in the left there's just the center of his army basically, with a lot of steadfast troops, and the cannon in the back. And the cannon, hopefully for him, is going to do most of the work in this matchup, just because the artificer is next to it. So it gives him a +1 to hit, and I am gigantic. I don't have a lot of cover on this board, so he's mostly going to be hitting on 2+, wounding on 2+, doing D3+1 wounds. So that is definitely going to hurt. So all the resilience that I have bought in my army doesn't really buy me a lot against this cannon. Yeah, so my counter deploy is mostly focused on just getting across the board as quickly as possible. I use the dogs on the left to zone out the riders as much as I can, because I can still use their special rule to get devastating charge, +1 attack, +1 strength. So then even a unit of if there's like 5 dogs remaining after his then shoot and just his shooting, then I still get 10 shots in or 10 attacks in, which will severely hamper the performance of his unit. And otherwise I have the warrior knights that can advance up quickly. I have the wasteland behemoths. Well, anything just basically has to go as quickly forward as possible. So this is also what I'm going to try. And now my opponent is just trying to chaff me up as effectively as possible. So he has one unit of riders on the flank that he's probably going to use to harass me for the rest of the game. Or at least that's going to be his intention. And the other one is just used to block up my lines, delaying me possibly another turn. Unless I charge into the riders and he makes his or he fails his tower check. That's why the Knight Commander, who is the general of the army, is actually also advancing up to the place where he's within 12 inches of the riders. So in some sense this is a bit of a risky play, because he doesn't have any general leadership near his bulk of his army in this way. But then again, I don't have any ranged potential really, so I'm not gonna inflict a panic check on the light infantry in the back, also not on the support unit, and big combat unit, heavy infantry, still has a marshal in there with discipline 9, so that should be fine. Yeah, so this is the first turn of my opponent. He tries to inflict some damage on me, but unfortunately for him, the steam tank misses and the cannon, I believe, fails to wound. So he doesn't get any wounds in with this, and then the riders, they also don't really do a lot. Just the unit on the left does manage to inflict some wounds on the dogs, and I had a bit of a misplay here. So my Wasteland Dragon general was out of range to the dogs, so the dogs only had discipline 5 and they fled the field very quickly. Then we go to my first turn. So the options I have are a little bit limited by the fact that I have these riders in front of me. So the first priority in my turn is actually to get rid of the riders. I would like to force a tower check on the riders, and ideally I would get rid of the Knight Commander of my opponent before I charge into the riders. So the first charge I declare is the Warhounds into his Knight Commander, because, well, even if I just inflict one wound, I still have a charge, I have a wound. He might just fluff on his dice, because it always happens that you fluff at some point in the game. Maybe this is already the point in the game. So I do declare the charge. My opponent is aware of the risks, but he's just gonna stick there. So I do face the issue of having riders with discipline 9. I charge into them, they make their fear checks or the tower check, so they just stick around. So they do delay my lines quite heavily the first turn. Then we go to magic. So my magic phase is quite simple. So I do have the Wizard Adept on Wasteland Dragon, and I do have the Crown of the Wizard King on the Wasteland Behemoth. The Wasteland Behemoth got Thaumaturgy, so once he's in combat he can't cast any spells, and I put him in combat so that he can still get the overrun, so that he at least can advance up a maximized roll. So I basically just have the Wizard Master or the Wizard Adept on the Dragon, and he had the +2 armor spell and Quicksilver Lash. So I think the armor spell is quite good at this point on the Feldrogs. And I actually believe it casted on the dogs, so I didn't really have a reason to do this. So, but I should have casted on the Feldrogs or on the Wasteland Behemoth just to minimize the damage that I would get from the shots of my opponent. But I do get also my Quicksilver Lash off, and I do manage to kill the Inquisitor of my opponent that was going to be able to harass my lines endlessly had I not been able to take care of him. And removal of the Inquisitor actually leads to the riders on the left taking a panic check and fleeing off towards the corner. So this first turn is looking quite okay for me. So I already removed the chaffing pieces of my opponent, and unfortunately the Knight Commander, he manages to actually decimate my dogs. So I believe he, out of his 5 attacks, including the horse, he did 4 wounds, which is a lot. I did manage to sneak a wound through on him, but then I lost by 2 and I was outside of my general range, so the dogs, they just fled away and they left the field. Then in my opponent's turn, he was doubting whether to charge into the Veldrax or not. He thought he might as well, and then with the steam tank join in the fight and possibly even break them, even though they're steadfast at discipline 9. But it's one thing in my army that doesn't have a reroll on the break test, so it's always tricky with these Veldrax, that you don't have the reroll on the break test, because it's a big point unit, and if the roll goes bad, then you lose a lot of points. That's also why I have the banner of discipline on them, just to minimize the tests that you have to take, basically. Yeah, otherwise it's just a reshuffling of the lines for my opponent. So for those of you unexperienced with playing against Empire, the one unit on the left is a support unit that is within 8 inches of the parent unit, and as long as it's within 8 inches and has at least 1 full rank, it can use the amount of ranks that the parent unit has to determine whether the unit is still steadfast. So my warrior knights, they can go into the left units of support swordsmen, but if I do less than 15 wounds, my opponent is going to be steadfast. I only have let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 attacks of the knights and 5 attacks of the horses, and I'm going to be hitting on 4+, so chances that I'll go through are very slim. So otherwise, my opponent, he had quite a good turn this turn, so his cannon shot off 4 wounds on my wasteland behemoth, and then his knight commander, who charged into the Veldrax, he actually managed to do 3 wounds. I didn't manage to do any wounds back. I rolled my break test and I got a 10 on the roll, so I'm gonna break, and actually my opponent catches up with me, so with a model that's like 250 points, he cleared a unit of 800 points just in one go like that. So that was a real surprise to me, because I definitely didn't expect that. Yeah, so I felt like for me that the matchup was turning a bit sour, and I had to find some kind of way to change this again into a better situation. So I'm gonna try to get rid of the Knight Commander with my Wasteland Dragon, because I still have a Quicksilver Lash to cast. And otherwise I charged in my Wasteland Behemoth into the steam tank just to start chipping off some wounds. And possibly it's not the best matchup for me, because I already took a couple of wounds, and the steam tank is just gonna grind me out. But then on the other hand, he's just doing 3d3 grind attacks, so that's most likely gonna be 6 hits. He wants me on a 5+, so that's probably going to be like 2 wounds. I might even save one of those. So the grind is not necessarily looking really good for the steam tank. And warrior knights, they charged into the infantry on the left. Quite confident that in the end I'm going to be able to just grind them out, because even if the halberdiers, they go into my flank, they don't count any ranks currently because they're 8 wide, so they will have quite some attacks. And I should have tried to put my champion on the side so that his characters couldn't actually strike at the unit. So what would happen if he would charge into my knights is that he gets a flank charge, he has a banner, he has another banner of the unit, then he has the banner of his support unit, so that's a combat res of 4. And then the attacks of the characters and the infantry, most likely they would do like 2 wounds or so, and my knights are gonna do, I would say, something like 4 wounds or 5 wounds. So I'd be down like 1 or 2, so I have a minimized discipline 9 roll that's rerollable. I would most likely stick around and then be able to flank his unit with my barbarians that are ready for the counter charge, and then hopefully solve the issue in that way just by grinding him out. Because it's only the first turn that he has hatred on his hull, but his second turn the damage that he's going to do is going to be way lower than this first turn. And yeah, these knights, they're quite comfortable at against halberdiers, I think. So then we go to my opponent's turn again. I did manage, by the way, to knock out the Knight Commander of my opponent with my Quicksilver Lash. Just because my opponent didn't want me to have some extra armor, I believe, or I just got a high roll. I was a bit lucky there, I think. But I did get rid of his Knight Commander. I was trying to tempt him into charging into my Wasteland Beam off with the Flagellants, but unfortunately he made his maximized discipline 9 roll, because there's a prelate in the unit. So he didn't have to charge, and then he didn't charge in the end. I don't know if this was the right call, because in the magic phase he didn't really have a lot of other stuff to do than to buff his Flagellants. So in the end he ended up buffing up his Flagellants and making the decision for me very easy to not go into this unit the next round. Because they have an additional strength and they have a 5+ Aegis save. So for this Wasteland Beam off, it's definitely not the ideal target. And also this turn he managed to shoot with his cannon and inflict 4 wounds on the other Wasteland Beam off. So certainly by now the cannon has definitely made his points back. And then we go to combat. So combat is kind of tricky here. It's the die rolls are not really in my favor, so I feel like 3 saves on the knights, I think, and my knights completely fluff. They don't hit any attacks, and after that they even break, despite the minimized discipline reroll. And then yeah, it's turning sour for me. It's really going bad. So yeah, the positive thing is that the Warrior Knights very easily rally on their minimized leadership. But otherwise, I'm just trying to dodge his army now, whilst it should have been quite a bit of a walk in the park, just throwing everything into his units. Because if I have multiple units of mine into his units, then it's going to be quite a short game, I would say. Like if you have 2 Wasteland Beam of and a Veldrak Elder into the heavy infantry, then it's a very short day for the heavy infantry. So out of desperation mostly, I charge in my Wasteland Dragon into his steam tank. So the steam tank already has, I believe, something like 3 wounds or so. But then the Wasteland Behemoth, or the Wasteland Dragon, he just bounces on the steam tank. So I think I did like 1 wound or so. So the mage on top, he just fluffed the dragon. He just had 1 or 2 hits and just did 1 wound, and the steam tank did 3 wounds back or so. Yeah, that was also not pretty, because then I also failed the check and I broke, and next turn the steam tank could just step onto my base. It's not it's just random movement, so it's not a charge, so I don't flee away from it, and then that general, it just got removed from the table. And all the while I still have a cannon that I'm facing that's hitting me on 2+, wounding me on 2+, so that is tough. That's just tough. So sometimes it's often with these cannons that they can be really decisive what they roll, and if they roll well, then it's really going well for your opponent. So here we go to magic again. My opponent tries to I believe he buffs up his Flagellants with another +1 strength, and I honestly don't really care a lot about this. So in the magic phase, I don't remember what he cast, but I believe at the end he also cast a Touch the Heart onto my Wasteland Behemoth, who had like 1 wound left, and I was like, yeah, sure, I I can't save him anyway from the cannon. And if I'm gonna run into flagellants, I'm gonna do some damage, but then after that the flagellants are just gonna completely annihilate my unit. Because by this point the battle is more or less just over. I only have my barbarian units left and my Feldrock Elder. The Feldrock Elder didn't take any wounds yet, however, so that's a good thing. But it's not gonna survive against this entire army of Empire. So my opponent, he still gets an overrun into my barbarians. I decide to just try and countercharge to see what this would give. And the other unit of barbarians, together with the Feldrock Elder, are going into the flank of the Flagellant unit. And then we go straight into combat, because otherwise my army doesn't really have a lot to do anymore. Yeah, so my opponent, he rolls his dice for the heavy infantry, smacking onto the barbarians, and this is where these heavy infantry blocks really shine. So you have this prelate that gives some hatred, you have the death warrant on the prelate or on the BSB, whatever you prefer, to give the unit also battle focus, and then you have just 4 ranks deep that can attack, because you get an order to fight an extra rank. So you have 32 attacks with hatred, with battle focus, with strength 4. If you fight before your opponent does, and you have some extra wounds that you can lose during the battle, or that you haven't lost yet, then it's really a cool unit, because you get a lot of strength 4 hits, and you can just wipe a unit of barbarians before it can even strike. And then the counter-charging barbarians in the side, they had like 6 attacks and they missed all of them. So no, I believe I killed in the end like 1 or 2 guys. We tallied it up at the end of the game, and actually the lake in the middle did more damage to his heavy infantry than my entire army did. So that was quite funny. Otherwise, the flagellants, I do manage to do a number onto them. So the barbarians, they kill a couple, the Feldrock Elder goes down a bit. And the fact that my opponent spread out his flagellants as much as he did meant that the Feldrock Elder could go to a place where only 4 flagellants could hit at him. With his resilience 6, he's quite tough for them, so that didn't really matter a lot. And then the next turn, flagellants are way less scary, because they don't have the hatred from the prelate anymore. So they don't get the reroll to hit, and that means that they don't do a lot of hits anymore. Yeah, so far it's been a bit of a wild ride, with a lot of stuff happening in my opponent's turn, and mostly me reacting to my opponent and not being able to get models where I wanted at the time I wanted. Like, the first turn looked really pretty, and then from there on it went downhill very, very fast. So I think there's a couple of elements in my opponent's list that are quite tricky to deal with for me. So first and foremost, there's the cannon and the steam tank. Just both cannons are really dreadful to me with this list. And then also the Reiters are really scary, together with the Inquisitor with the silver shots and the multiple wounds on his pistol. And out of those, the steam tank is probably the scariest. Like, with Warriors of the Dark God, you have a lot of tools to get to strength 5 and also quite a lot of strength 6. But you don't have the tools to get through a 1+ armor save 7 hit point model with resilience 6. That's too much to ask, basically. So steam tank will always be a problem for Warriors of the Dark Gods. Even if you have a Chaos Lord with Burning Portal, that's only strength 5. Yeah, so it was an interesting battle for sure. I'm probably worthy of a rematch, and I think the next time we do it, it's gonna turn out differently, because the die rolls were just sometimes so incredible. But then again, it's a game of dice after all. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.